Algebra 1, test number 13. We got through lesson 4.3 where we're doing quick graphs using intercepts. It's a study guide for it. First two problems are graphing equations using the intercepts. Okay, you have to pick the correct graphs from 7x plus 6y is equal to 42. If you look for the x-intercept, you plug in 0 for the y. So you have 7x plus 6 times 0 is equal to 42. Anything times 0 eliminates that part of the problem, and you have something that says 7x is equal to 42. When you divide by 7 on both sides, your x-intercept is 6. So we look at our x-axis, each of our x-axes. Okay, this one is crossing through at 6. So is this one. These two here are crossing through at -6. So these are out. It's not -6. So we got to choose from A and C. So if we look for our other intercept, our y-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for the opposite one, x. So 7 times 0 plus 6 times y equals 42. Again, anything times 0 eliminates that part. 6y equals 42. When you divide by 6 on both sides, the y-intercept is 7. Notice there's no negative value. So here, it's crossing through at -7. That's incorrect. This one is crossing through at +7. Therefore, this is the correct equation, A. That's the correct graph to go with the equation. 7x plus 6y is equal to 42. Number 2, we're going to do the same thing. You have x and y intercepts you can find. To find the x-intercept, you plug in 0 for y. 5x minus 7 times 0, remember that eliminates that part of the problem, is equal to -35. When you divide both sides by 5, you get x's value is -7. So again, on your x-axis, this is +7. So that's wrong, that one. It's not that one. This one over here is +7 as well. So that one's wrong. So we got to choose between C and D based on our y-intercept. To find y, you plug in 0 for the opposite one, x. 5 times 0, again, it eliminates that part of the problem. Leaves you with -7 times y is equal to -35. To get y by itself, you divide by -7. A negative divided by a negative, we know, is a positive. Y's value is +5. So on your y-axis here, it's crossing through at -5. That's wrong. This one's +5. The x value is -7. That's this one. Therefore, D is the correct answer for that equation. Number 3 tells you to graph this table, then use the vertical line test. Don't worry too much about the vertical line test right here. Worry about graphing the equation. Each one of these is a relation, 0, 2. Okay, 2, -2, 4, 0, and 6, 0. When we graph those, remember, this is your x and this is your y, and it even says that on top of it up there. It says x, then it gives you all the values, y, and gives you all the values. X tells you to go left or right. 0 says don't go left or right at all. This is your x-axis, so you don't go left or right at all. Y is positive, tells you to go up 2. Y tells you to either go up or down. So up 1, 2. There's the first point right there at 0, 2. The second point, 2, -2. Again, 2, -2. 2 tells you this time to go to the right 2 times. So we got to go over once, twice. And -2 tells us to go down 2 times, down once, twice. So to the right twice and down twice. That's where the second point goes. The next one, 4, 0, tells you to go to the right 4 times and don't go up or down at all. So to the right 1, 2, 3, 4 times, that's where your next point goes. And then the last one, 6, 0, tells you to go to the right 6 times and don't go up or down at all. So we got 4, got to go a little bit further than what I drew. 4, and just continue it. 5, 6 is where that next point goes. 6, don't go up or down at all. So that's what your graph should look like at 0, 2, 2, -2, 4, 0, and 6, 0. Graph should look like that. Notice it's not a linear equation. It could be, though. You graph it the exact same way. Again, don't worry about the vertical line test for that one. Number 4 says find the x and y intercepts. So same thing as we did for number 1 and 2. plug in place, if we're looking for the x-intercept, plug in y's value is 0. So 2x plus 3 times 0, that part's gone, is negative 18. This is gone. 2x is equal to negative 18. There's no reason to add 0 to anything. Divide by 2 on both sides. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So your x-intercept is negative 9. In order to find the y-intercept, you're going to plug in 0 for the x. So 2 times 0, again, eliminating that part of the problem, plus 3 times y is equal to negative 18. This is gone. 0 plus anything doesn't matter. 3y equals negative 18. Divide by 3 on both sides, and y's intercept is negative 6. So x is negative 9, and y is negative 6. Again, x and y intercept, we're going to do the same thing. To find the x-intercept, we'll go a little quicker this time. 3x minus 3 times 0 will eliminate that part of the problem, equals 24. Divide by 3 on both sides. X is 8. So your x-intercept's 8. You can do the same thing to find your y-intercept. Plug in 0 for x. 3 times x eliminates that part of the problem. 3 times 0 minus 3y equals 24. Divide by negative 3 on both sides. And a positive divided by negative is a negative 8. X-intercept is 8. Y-intercept is negative 8. Then we're graphing these equations. Notice number 7 and number 9 were the exact same problem. That's by mistake. Y's value, y is equal to 3. This is your y-axis, the one going up and down. It's crossing through at 1, 2, 3. That's where it crosses through that axis there. Remember, anytime you only have one variable, x or y, you're going to have a horizontal or a vertical line. So right here, if it's crossing through at 3, that means it's always going to cross through at 3. It's going to be a horizontal line, y equals 3. When x's value is 3, we're going to do the same thing, except now this is your x-axis. So at 1, 2, 3, it's going to cross through there. Again, it's always going to cross through there. So it'll be x is equal to 3 will be a vertical line at 3. Y is equal to 1. Again, same thing like number 6 was a second ago. This is your y-axis. So at 1, it's going to cross through there, and it'll always cross through at 1. It is a horizontal line, y equals 1. And then 7 and 9 are the exact same thing. X equals 3. It'll look just like this one. Then we're solving these equations. We have variables on both sides for number 10. You got 5x and 4x. First thing you want to do is collect your variables. Bring 4x over to this side. It's positive, so subtract it. You subtract it on the right, subtract it on the left. 5x minus 4x is 1x. You have minus 7 is equal to negative 2. Want to get x by itself, get rid of minus 7 by adding 7 to both sides. Positive and a negative, opposite signs, you subtract them. 7 minus 2 is 5. 7 is the higher absolute value. It is positive. Therefore, it's going to stay, x's value is going to be positive 5. For number 11, before we try to bring anything across the equal sign, notice where the equal sign is. We have to simplify each the left and the right side. The right side's already done because it just has 3D over there. But on the left side, we can combine 9D, 4D, and negative 6D. 9D plus 4D is 13D. 13D minus 6D is 7D. You still have negative 9 or minus 9 there, equals 3D. Now, typically, just like number 10, typically we would bring our smaller 3D over to our larger 7D side. But since we have negative 9 on the left and we don't have a constant term on the right, it is faster in this case to bring our larger 7D to our smaller 3D side. If you do it the other way, it will still work, though. Just make sure that you get them on the opposite sides. It is positive 7D, so subtract 7D. If you do it on the left, do likewise on the right. 3D minus 7D, opposite signs, subtract them. 7 minus 3 is 4D. And since 7 is the higher absolute value and it's negative, it'll be negative 4D. We still have on the left-hand side, once this is gone, we still have negative 9. In order to get D by itself, it says negative 4 times D. Undo that by dividing by negative 4. That'll leave you with D all by itself. If you divide the right-hand side by -4, you need to do likewise on the left-hand side. We know a negative divided by negative is a positive. No numbers go into both 9 and 4. So D's value is 9/4. Number 12 says -6 is equal to x over 8 plus 4. We want to undo our order of operations backwards in this case. So undo plus 4 first by subtracting 4. If you subtract it on the right, subtract it on the left. Now you're talking about the same sign. Notice they both have negative, -6 and -4. So add the numbers. 6 and 4 is 10, and keep the common -10. So now you have -10 is equal to x over 8. We still don't have x by itself. We have x over 8, which means x divided by 8. So cancel out divide by 8 by multiplying by 8. You multiply the right, do the same thing on the left. Positive times a negative is going to be a negative, and 8 times 10 is 80. So x is -80. Number 13 says 3/8, 3 over 8x minus 8 is equal to 5. Again, order of operations in reverse. Undo first, minus 8 by adding it. If you add it to the left, do it to the right. 5 plus 8 is 13. So you have 13 on the right is equal to 3 over 8 times x. Undo 3 over 8 times something by dividing by 3 over 8. Remember, dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. So we will have to do it on the next step anyways. So to save ourselves a step, we will multiply by the reciprocal 8 over 3. That will cancel it out and leave us with just x. Remember, if you multiply one side by 8 over 3, you have to multiply the other side by 8 over 3. So if we multiply straight across at this point, since we can't reduce anything, 8 times 3 is 24. Carry a 2. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 2 is 104. And 1 times 3 is 3. So we have 104 over 3. 3 goes into 10 3 times, and there's 1 left over. It doesn't go into 14. Therefore, this is a simplified version. 104, as bad looking of a number as that is a simplified, reduced, improper fraction. 104 over 3. 15 says 20 is equal to -d plus 17. Again, order of operations in reverse. Get d all by itself by undoing plus 17 by subtracting it. If you do it there, do it here. 20 minus 17 is positive 3. You still have negative d on the right, which means -1 times d. Undo that by dividing by -1. If you do it to the right, do it to the left. Again, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. 3 divided by 1 is 3. You cannot undo plus 10 first for this next one because of the division bar acts like a grouping symbol. So you need to undo divide by -3 by multiplying by -3. If you multiply the right, multiply the left. -3 times 2 is -6 is equal to 10 plus z. Now we can get z by itself by undoing positive 10 by subtracting it. If you subtract it on the right, do the same on the left. Again, same signs. It's -6, -10. Add them up. 6 and 10 is 16. And keep the common sign negative. Z is -16. 16, 57 minus 13 plus 2n is equal to 68. Combine, again, before you try to undo anything, combine your like terms, 57 and minus 13. 7 minus 3 is 4, and 5 minus 1 is 4. So we have 44 plus 2n is equal to 68. We want to get n all by itself. That's our goal. So before we undo 2 times something, we need to undo plus 44 or positive 44 by subtracting it. We subtract it on the left, subtract it on the right. 8 minus 4 is 4, and 6 minus 4 is 2. So now we have something that says 2n is equal to 24. Get n by itself by undoing 2 times n by dividing by 2. And if you divide the left, divide the right. 24 divided by 2 is 12. N is 12. Distribute first for number 17. 4 times y is 4y. 4 times 3 is positive 12 is equal to 28. Again, undo to get y by itself by undoing plus 12 by subtracting it. You do it to the left, do it to the right. 8 minus 2 is 6. 2 minus 1 is 6 is 1. 4y is equal to 16. Undo 4 times y by dividing by 4. Do it to the left again, do it to the right. Y is equal to 4. 18 says 3p over 5 minus 20 is equal to negative 14. Again, you want to undo to get p by itself. You want to undo minus 20 first by adding it. If you add it to the left, add it to the right. Now, here are opposite signs, negative 14 and positive 20. So subtract them. 20 minus 14 is 6. And since 20 is the bigger absolute value, it's positive. It'll stay positive 6. So now you can look at this as two different ways. I'm going to look at it instead of 3p over 5. I'm going to look at it as 3 over 5 times p. And that'll make it where I can do it in one step instead of two. That says 3 over 5 times p. You undo times that by dividing by 3 over 5. Remember, dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal, 5 over 3. You multiply by 5 over 3, you need to do likewise on the other side. This is over 1. The number 3 goes into itself once and into 6 twice. Now we're dealing with smaller numbers straight across. 2 times 5 is 10, and 1 times 1 would simply be 1. Number 19 says find the value of y. We just solve them for y. Before we try to bring anything across, we want to combine our like terms. Negative 6y and positive 4y. We get negative 2y. Plus 14 is still there, is equal to 32. Undo plus 14, any addition first by subtracting 14. You subtract the left, subtract the right. 12 minus 4 is 8, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So now we have 18 on the right is equal to negative 2y on the left. Get y by itself by dividing by negative 2. You divide the left, divide the right. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. 18 divided by 2 is 9. $20 says a camera manufacturer spends $2,700 a day plus $6 per camera for labor and materials. So this is how much he spends. He spends $2,700 plus 6 times an unknown amount of cameras. This is how much money he earns. He earns 11 times the amount of cameras he makes. So it says how many cameras must the camera seller sell in one day to equal the costs or how much he spends. So when will they be equal? We have variables on both sides. Bring your smaller 6x over to your larger 11x by subtracting it. When you subtract it on the left, subtract the right. Now you have 5x is equal to 2,700. When you divide by 5 on both sides to get x by itself, that gives you x. Divide this side by 5. 5 goes into 27 5 times. And there's 2 left over. 5 goes into 20 4 times. So he needs to sell 540 cameras to break even. The second part says if he increases his production by 50 cameras per day, if he increases his production by 50 cameras per day, what would his profit be? Well, it costs him $6 per camera, and he makes $11 per camera. So 11 minus 6, he's going to make $5 per camera. And then it says if he can make 50 more cameras, we're going to multiply 5 times 50. He'll make 250 additional dollars if he can increase it by 50 cameras per day. $21 says a copy center offers its customers 2 different pricing plans for black and white copies of 8.5 by 11-inch pages. Customers can either pay 8 cents per page or they can buy a discount card for $7.50 that lowers the cost to 5 cents per page. Write and solve an equation to find the number of photocopies for which the cost of each plan is the same. So no discount. no discount, it costs 8 cents per page. So 0.08 times an unknown amount of pages. With a discount, they pay $7.50 plus an additional 5 cents per page. So 0.05 times an unknown amount of pages. So it says write an equation and solve to find out when they'll be the same, when they'll be equal. So we have 0.08x and we got 0.05x. So we got variables on both sides. So we want to bring our smaller one over to our larger one side. So subtract 5 cents times x on both sides, and you'll get 3 cents times x is equal to $7.50. So what you're trying to figure out now is how many copies must they make. How many copies must they make in order to recoup that $7.50? So it says 0.03 times x, divide by 0.03 to get x by itself, because we're undoing multiplication. When you do it to one side, do the same to the other side. And x's value is going to be 250 copies. So at 250 copies, it's exactly the same if they buy the discount or if they just pay 8 cents per page. So if they go past 250 copies, if they make 251 copies, it becomes cheaper to buy the discount. If they make fewer than 250 copies, like 249, then it's better to just pay 8 cents per page. 23 was solving these equations again. 1 minus 5, y minus 5 equals negative 1. Get y by itself by undoing minus 5. Add 5. Remember, if you do something to one side, you got to do the same to the other side. These have opposite signs, negative 1 and positive 5, so subtract them. 5 minus 1 is 4, and since 5 is the higher absolute value, it's positive. We keep that sign. Y is equal to positive 4. Number 23 says p plus a negative 5. That means p minus 5. That's all that means. Equals negative 12. So undo that to get p by itself. Undo minus 5 by adding 5. Remember, if you do it to one side, do it to the other side. Again, we have opposite signs, so subtract them. 12 minus 5 is 7. And since 12 is the higher absolute value this time, it's negative. You keep the negative. 24 says to simplify negative 4 to the 5th power. That is not negative 4 times negative 4 5 times. This is not correct. This is the very common mistake people do. It is 4 to the 5th power. That means it's not negative. It's just simply 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. And when you raise 4 to the 5th power, you get 1,024. So 1,024. Then the negative comes down in front of it to make it negative 1,024. 19z minus 12z. They have the same variable z. So it's like having 19 z's and taking 12 z's away. 19 minus 12 is 7 z's. You still have 7 z's.